Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show. Here are your hosts, Ryan Gertis, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Recon Group at West USA and the Frederick team with Fairway Mortgage. NMLS number 625918.
Guys, the outside of interest rates, the topic on everybody's mind and where a lot of confusion is and where a lot of people don't understand where to get the right data comes down to how much is my house worth? Everybody wants to know how much their house is worth. And it doesn't matter where you go, who you talk to, you are going to get a different answer. Some people think home prices are going to skyrocket this year. Some people think that we've leveled off for the year. Some people think that there is going to be a decline in property values. And so that's what we want to talk about today. But Ryan, before I let you jump in, I think it's important to understand some of the factors that go into it. And I'm a subscriber of the theory that the Maricopa County real estate market is insulated from the rest of the nation. Just because the rest of the nation is doing something doesn't necessarily mean Maricopa County is going to follow suit and do the same thing. Just because it's such a unique place when it comes down to real estate. I think one of the biggest factors, and I want to start off this conversation with, is understanding inventory. And I'd love to get your opinion on how inventory is impacting this. Because they'll tell you, you talk to somebody, we got 15, 16,000 active listings on the MLS at any given time. For me and the typical buyer that I'm working with, they're looking for single family homes in Maricopa County. And when you drive down into the MLS based on that search, we're anywhere between 8,000 to 9,000. So we don't have a ton of inventory. And I think it's just an important thing to note when you start trying to figure out how much your house is worth today and where it might be worth 12 months from now.
Well, so going back to your first point, there are still plenty of other towns and cities that have a lot of parallels with us. Vegas being one. It seems like if something's happening in Vegas, it's going to happen pretty soon thereafter here. And then if there's something weird that happens here, Vegas is not too far behind. So we're kind of playing leapfrog with them a lot. And then some places in Idaho, we're seeing different markets in Texas that we're seeing a lot of parallels with. So some of this data can be synonymous with some of these other markets. So, but then some markets in California, Oregon, and Washington, they're not seeing.
We're still hoping California is just going to drop off into the ocean and Arizona's going to become. Imagine if Blythe was beachfront property. How crazy would that be? All those people that live in Blythe or Quartzsite, man, they'd be living large.
Dude, it'd be phenomenal. So going over to home values. All right, so we were talking about this just before we came on here. Justin, you said that between May of last year and May before that, there was a 13% decline.
May of 20,000 or May of 2022, all the way up until the first of 2023.
Got it.
So,
okay.
Yeah, a 13.5% decline is what the statistics were showing as
for overall market.
For overall market.
Okay.
From the peak.
So Maricopa County, 1 year. So this is a quarterly report that just came out. So down 8.3% from Q1 of 2022 to Q1 of 2023. And so, I mean, I look at that number and I'm like, that's nothing.
It's nothing.
It's nothing.
It's really not.
So there's going to be some. We have microchasms within the chasm that we have here in Maricopa County, right? So we'll have.
We got chasms everywhere,
yeah,
bro.
We're like the melting pot within the melting pot, right? So we have some areas that are going to do significantly worse, and some areas that actually we've seen positive movement on. Like the area right there by Luke Air Force Base, they have been prospering. And then there's some areas over in kind of like, kind of more of the
Maryville
or other difficult districts that they got the brunt of what the market had to serve up to them. Basically, what we're talking about is areas where the demographics are highly affected by interest rates. So areas where we're seeing a lot of higher-end properties, those types of folks are paying cash right now, right? Or they're borrowing very little because they're saying, well, my dollar isn't doing very much in a savings account, right? Or I'm not getting money as cheap as I was 2 years ago, so I would rather put that money into the kitty because I know that I'm either going to lose less there or actually make money than I would putting it in the stock market or crypto or whatever it is where they weren't seeing the gains before.
So what does that mean for those that are listening to the podcast, what does that mean for the seller right now, the person who's thinking about buying or selling their home? Do I sell now? Do I wait this out? We're talking numbers, but what does that mean to you in practical purposes? Either one of you jump in.
So you can take this.
I mean, if it's me, I see that the market's declined. I'd be asking, well, what are you expected to do in the future? And I mean, based on what we've talked about, we expect possibly maybe up to another 2% with the market declining. But
I won't argue with that.
If you wait until the bottom, then you're going to wait for there's going to be less inventory, possibly. But most likely you're going to have less seller concessions, repairs to properties. In a market like this right now, I think you can get a home well below value.
Well, yeah, but we're talking to sellers right now. So what does that mean for the seller?
Well, if they're looking to sell to buy another house, or
gotcha,
or looking to possibly hold on to that house and buy another house,
Let me be anecdotal about this because you're saying
you're right.
You're saying something that I feel like the story I'm about to tell is going to hit the nail on the head. I had a phone call just a few days ago from a client, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to list the house, and I stand to make about $130,000 because he bought it about 8 years ago, and his whole game plan is he's going to rent for the next couple of years, and he has no other assets that are really going to help build him wealth. So, all these things being said, to answer your question is." I have no freaking idea because everyone has a different scenario,
right?
And so his scenario, he bought it at a certain point in the market. It spiked up, and it was doing really well, and then it went down, and now he's trying to. You don't sell in the valleys.
No,
you sell in the peaks, unless of course you're going to move that money over to another asset that's going to continue to make you money, right? But he's telling me, no, I want to see that $130,000 sitting in my savings account while I rent after that. And then when the timing feels right for me, I'm going to buy again. So in that respect, terrible idea to sell. I said, no, do not list your home. It's a bad idea.
I have so many people that are calling me right now wanting to sell their home, still looking to get pre-qualified, but they're like, I want to rent for a year, so tell me what I got to do to get in the best shape in a year. And I'm like,
don't rent.
Why would you do this? Why would you rent?
That play was a year and a half ago at the absolute peak, and I think that there was a lot of writing on the wall when the rates were at high 2s, low 3s, and we were seeing just a crazy market going on that we knew could never sustain. So at that point, if you want to take the whole sell and rent thing, well, okay.
But I would take something that was $100K over value for a 2% interest rate all day long.
When you break it down to what your monthly nut is, then yeah, I mean it's just you got to balance it all out because it's a whole picture, right? So if your whole idea right now is to sell right now just to rent, that ship has sailed.
Yeah,
right,
100%.
So I'm going to be that guy in the room. I'm not sure it's good for optics, but we'll find out.
You're always that guy.
I disagree with you guys.
Okay.
I completely disagree with you guys. I think, first of all, you mentioned the word spike, and I think it's an important term because a 8.5% decrease to me is not necessarily a full reflection of the story. I think a lot of that was more of a correction rather than property values going down. There was a lot of homes that sold at the end of all of this way above what they should ever have sold. Do we have a recession coming this summer? Well, history tells us typically during recessions, interest rates drop, home prices go up. In the 6 of the last 8 recessions, home values went up. We have low inventory. If rates drop, and I think that's the defining element here.
100%.
If rates drop, I don't see how property values are going to go down. They may level off a little bit. They may stabilize or continue to stabilize. But I think for me personally, it's a huge mistake to wait to get into the game because I think home values are going to go up. They're not going to go up. It's not going to be out of control. But
So
I
how
don't see them decreasing.
So what's the argument then? Because I feel like what we're saying right now is don't
Just don't
sell right.
rent.
Yeah, don't sell right now. Let's take my friend as an example. Do you think he should sell right now?
Again, and I think you bring up the most important point. That always is determined on someone's individual situation. I don't think that I think you're in a good place for selling right now. I think that home prices are going to go up. I don't think they're going to go up significantly enough to say I'm going to wait for this giant appreciation in the next 12 months. I think we're just going to be steady Eddie. We're going to be stable, but if interest rates do drop, I think we're going to have multiple counters this summer or multiple offers. I think we're going to not to the degree that we were last year, but it's going to be similar,
especially with the lack of inventory.
Well, so inventory isn't doing too bad. Actually, inventory went up a little bit. It's just over 10,000 active as opposed to a few weeks ago when it was low nines. So inventory has gone up just a little bit over
That's
here.
good.
Which we needed.
Which is crazy. I mean, I felt like last weekend was a huge weekend in the market. I felt like there was tons of offers being made out there, multiple offers.
Well, obviously, this segment we're going back. We're all confused, and we're talking about buyers. We're talking about sellers, which is fine because if you're selling, you're going to be buying anyways. But the question I have for you, Justin, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, so we're definitely going to test your intelligence level here.
Right,
the unprepared question.
See what I got.
I think the concern for me that I have about the market and I have about interest rates and what happens and the X factor that people aren't talking about is we're hearing that we're heading for a recession, yet we go to the restaurants when we're on 45-minute waits. People are out shopping. How much right now are people living on credit cards? And is that going to come to roost?
Actually, I was just looking at some statistics from the MBA, Mortgage Banking Association, and they were showing America's credit card debt and how significantly it's gone up since the COVID era. During COVID, with the stimulus that was coming out, people were paying down their credit cards, and I've seen it firsthand. We're starting to see just people stretching everything to the max when they're coming in for buying a home. So I think that's significant, but I think that's also everything goes in circles. And I think, based on that statistic that I saw, I know that no matter what the interest rates are, cash out refinances are going to be coming back because as Americans, what we do is we stack it all up and then we look for a way out. And what's the easiest way out? Use the equity in your home to cash out refi. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, I think there's a lot of credit card debt out there.
Yeah, and when the recession, I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges.
I got to sit down with a good buddy of mine. He runs a big auto dealership just around the corner here, and they're seeing more and more people do a 7-year auto loan rather than the 5 or 3, which is probably the more common one. And they're leveraging them all to the tilt, but we're seeing defaults starting to increase over there too. Because I think that's another sign of what's to come.
Do you know what the average payment is on an auto loan right now? I just learned this today.
$1,000
in America.
I'm going to say $672.53.
It's $820.
Wow,
that's insane. That's a very high payment. And we're talking about 7-year loans.
I remember.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
I had to throw that out there.
I think it's something that we need to pay attention to because obviously there is a relationship between that and real estate because especially for second homes
Yeah.
or vacation properties because the first thing that people are going to cut are their luxuries, right? They're going to travel less. They're going to buy less expensive vehicles or have less vehicles in the household. They're going to, they're going to reconsider whether or not they're going to buy certain things for their wardrobe. They're just going to consume differently, and they're going to do things more on function rather than form. So when we start seeing these because it wasn't just the housing industry, it was the auto industry too. If you bought if you bought a vehicle during COVID or even a year after that, the prices were just so inflated, and they were paying right now money. Like the money they were paying for that right now vehicle was insane. Quick story: I bought a vehicle during COVID, and I bought my vehicle for over $20,000 less, brand new, because I was willing to wait for them to build my vehicle than I was to drive off the lot with something that was a year older with 22,000 miles on it.
Well, I when I consider my wife's wardrobe, there's a lot that I'm ready to start cutting out.
Summertime's here, buddy.
Summertime here. Well, regardless of where you're at, and if you own a home and you have not determined or figured out, one, really, what is your home's worth? What are the options afforded to you, and what does your particular situation say and dictate some of the options you might consider? Our team of real estate wealth managers would love to have a chat with you. All you got to do is text the word value to 623-AZ-RECON. That's value to 623-AZ-RECON.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate 401k Show. If you want more information on how to build wealth, click on the link or text us at 623-297-3266. That's 623-AZ-RECON.